Well, if you go back the last 3 years, special teams have played an important part in that game. I can go back 3 years ago. We were up on them late in the fourth quarter. They were coming down. They had an opportunity for a go-ahead field goal. Dustin Rivas blocks a field goal. We return for a touchdown. We kind of seal the game. Last year we were behind in a game, and we go down. We score relatively late. We do a little bloop kick. We recover it, and then we go down for the go-ahead touchdown. And so I think that's been an important part down here. 2 years ago up there at South Dakota Mines, they were a good football team, and early in the first half of the first quarter, it was pretty much back and forth, and it was 0-0. We blocked 2 punts in a row for touchdowns, and then our defense gets a 3-and-out stop. We throw a 60, 65-yard touchdown pass to Burnell. It's 21-0, and it was a cold day, and I think they just kind of said, you know what, that's it for that day. We were playing for a championship, but I think that they've got an axe to grind, and I think that they're a very good football team. I know that Coach Tinker does a really great job with those guys. Offensively, you look at it, they have been one of the most productive offensive teams in our conference each of the last 3 years. Defensively, I know last year they gave up some points, but even in that game with us, they played very well, and they really played us quite well, and we had a couple big plays. But if you look at what they did then later on in the season, it was a totally different situation. And so I'll be honest, I don't know what we're going to see offensively out of their defense. They may be some 4 down like they were last year. They may be some 3 down. They may be, 3-4, 3-3. And so right now, I'll be honest, I think we're just trying to prepare our guys for a lot of different things. And just like we were talking this morning, the quarterback said, we have to be able to adjust. And I think how well and how quickly we can adjust will be a major factor in that ball game.
Questions?
So you've had, 3 weeks now to figure some things out and feeling comfortable a little bit more with positions and rotations and all?
I think we are, and I think one of the things we've got is I think we got some guys that we've got a little bit of depth on some of the positions. Some of the positions we're going to be really thin. I think we're really thin right now in the offensive and defensive lines. We've had some guys banged up and stuff. I think if you take a look at these 2 guys, we got some depth at quarterback. We got some depth at running back. We got some depth at some receiver stuff. Defensively, I think we got some depth at a couple different positions, but right now it's not necessarily up front. But I think what we're seeing and stuff is I think we have the ability to really be an outstanding football team. I think there's a lot of new names, and people are not going to be used to hearing some of the names they're going to hear. But I think by the time we get into the midseason, they're going to hear a lot of those names over and over. But I think we will be a very good football team. I think we're at a point that we got to play somebody else. It's a situation that I think we've been a little bit stale, a little bit stagnant the last couple practices. Sometimes that happens because you go against yourself too long. College football is the only game where you don't get a chance to have scrimmages. In the NFL, they get preseason games. They get 2 or 3 practices against other teams. You look at volleyball, men, women's basketball, baseball programs, they get to play scrimmages. They get games to kind of get that out of the system a little bit and work some of those errors out. I heard just the other night with some of the Division I football games on TV, there were some of those coaches that were kind of complaining. They said, well, it'd be nice if they could at least have a practice against somebody else. Well, we need that kind of practice against somebody else, but in our case, we don't get a practice against them. It comes out in the first game, so we got to be really tuned in because we don't get a redo. And in our case, that very first game is a conference game, and it's a very critical and very important game. And it's the same way for South Dakota Mines. So you're going to have 2 teams coming out that are going to be competing and really giving it everything they have. And I feel good with our players. I think coaches have done a great job of preparing them, and I think it's a situation that it's time we play somebody else.
Say, Rope, you've got, the most starting experience of anybody in the quarterback. You ready to kind of take that mantle and go?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I'm the most experienced, but I feel like us 3 in that room right now, that any one of us have the skills and ability to lead this team, and I appreciate Coach calling on me for this game. And I just plan on going out there and giving it all I got.
How has the competition helped all of you? Because you guys have been so even really ever since last spring.
Yeah, no, I think it's been good, yeah. It's been keeping us sharp mentally and physically, just making ourselves better and challenging each other each and every day. But it's also brought us close together, too, as a group. We have each other's backs, and I know they're going to be rooting for me just as I'll be rooting for them if they get out there.
say, Isaac, you were running back, and then you were a linebacker, and now you're a running back again, and, you know, it's kind of nice to know right now, for now, and you're a punter. But right now, you're a running back again?
Yeah, might be a corner next year. No, I'm a running back right now. It's been a good journey for me. Going back and forth kind of puts you in perspective of what you can see. I've learned a lot on the defensive side, what you look for in an offense, and from the offensive side, what you're supposed to look for in a defense. And it's just educated me on the game even more. So it's been a good thing.
Had to have helped playing linebacker last year, kind of figuring out, okay, that hole is going to be there on this, and now you can kind of flip it around.
Right, there's certain fits that the defenses do, or certain shades that they run, or they try to hide things with the safeties. And I see that even more now on offense when Coach talks about it in film, and it's more evident and it's more important now, and it'll help in the game.
Offensively, it sounds like there's a lot of depth, and obviously you bring a lot of weapons back at the wideout position and depth in running back. You know, what offensively do you see this team doing, and how, you know, multifaceted that it can be?
Well, I think you're going to see that it's going to be very similar to what we've done in the past. We're not going to have as many called quarterback runs, but we know there's going to be several of them that our quarterbacks can check to because of different fronts and different things that they see. But I think the other thing is, you know, last year we eliminated a little bit of the passing game because we knew Easton was an outstanding runner. And so we were going to use that within our system. We've added in a few more things from the passing game because I think Rope and all three of our guys have the ability to throw the football down the field. We got some receivers that can go get the ball, and so I think what you'll see is maybe a little bit more aerial attack at times or threatening people, but at the same time, I think you're going to see us still looking to run the football. When you play in the Midwest and you start getting in November, December, you better be able to run the football. And it still holds true even in the first game of the year, because if we can stay ahead of the chains and we can keep moving the chains, it gives us every option in the playbook. And what we want to do is make sure that we're playing first down football, because eventually first downs become touchdowns. And I think these guys have done a very good job of that. And I think, you know what, Rope understands our system as well as any quarterback I've coached. And so I think when we start looking at things, I think the different options that all come into play, you know, we can be running our base zone and we've got 2 or 3 options on the perimeter of what's going to happen there. And teams have to defend the perimeter, and the more they defend the perimeter, the more we believe we're going to have the ability to run the ball on the inside. And so I think with the things that we've been doing, I think our guys are ready for it. I think we've got some explosive receivers that I think in a lot of cases people are going to struggle trying to say, hey, we can just match up, we can play man and go from there. Because I think guys like Peter Anderson, KJ Sept, you know, even Bradley Toussaint, those guys can all run. They're all deep threats. And I think you're going to see those guys utilized in a lot of different situations. And so I think we're still going to be a very explosive offense. Man, there's a lot of brand new faces in there and stuff. And so that's okay, because they're outstanding players, and they've been extremely well responded well to coaching, and they're very coachable, but I think they have extremely high expectations of themselves. And I think the same thing is true defensively. We got a lot of new names back over in that secondary. You know, you take a look, we got 2 safeties that are coming back that were basically all conference type players in Darian Turner and Nick Sissio. And I'll be honest, I think at the corners right now, with Devontae Loggins and Nigel Hale, I think we have the best secondary we have ever had since I've been here. And I think those 2 guys as corners are as good as any 2 corners have ever been in this conference that I've seen. So I think we've got some really good things going. And are those names people have heard recently? No, they're not. But I think by the time we get done with the season, people will certainly hear them. So.
And then last for me, last season may not have gone exactly the way that you guys wanted to, but you finished the season out with 3 straight wins. Is there any of that momentum kind of coming over into this first game here?
You know, there might be. I don't think that we put any emphasis into that situation other than toward the end of last season. I think our players responded to some adverse situations, and I think they've learned from that. I think that in life there's going to be adverse things that happen. And, you know, when it happens, it's definitely going to affect you. But at the same time, life goes on, and you got to be able to continue moving on, and it's the same thing in football. And so I think our players have grown from that. I think they're going to be even stronger individually as well as collectively because of some of the things that happened. Obviously, until we get at the end of the season and we win a national championship, there's never a coach in the world that's fully happy. And so, I mean, we went at it, then I'll say, okay, and then we'll still look at the things that we did wrong to get better at and say, well, we still got room for improvement. But I'm going to tell you, I love coaching this football team. I think we've got some outstanding players, and I think we've got some outstanding character individuals and some great leadership.
Rope, in your role, and you've got the speed burner that, okay, if I get in trouble, I just kind of throw it as far as I can. But you've also got, Isaac who can catch the ball out of the backfield and the options. Is it just kind of trying to slow the game down a little bit to
Yeah,
find the right guys?
I mean, the guys around me definitely makes my job a lot easier. But yeah, just trying to not do too much and just get the ball into their hands and let them make the plays.
And Isaac just keep him off his back, right?
That's the plan. I mean, I have to do that. Protection first, ball security second, and assignment sound. So as long as he's staying up, we'll be in pretty good shape.
And really, in this offense, this team's gonna throw the football. But you also know that that's gonna open up the run game for some, okay, 2 or 3 this time, but it's gonna open up for a 30 or 40-yard run at times, don't you?
Right. We have that running game, and not only me, but we have Jesse Rodriguez, Trey Wyndham. These are guys that aren't being mentioned right now, but they're in our back pocket that we can use anytime. So it's going to open up the run game, and I'll be ready for it as well as the other people will too.